Good morning, listening squirrels. Still trying to get my lights right. Maybe that looks better. Gotta get my little ghosty lights on. Let's do the twinkle thing. The candle setting. Okay, new story time. This is the one I'm getting ready to read is by the same author that did Aunt Joanna. And I didn't read to you about him. And I found out some interesting stuff, which is really cool, especially on a Sunday. And the name of the story is A Dead Finger. A Dead Finger is a short horror story by Sabine Baring Gould. It's a strange tale about a parasitic finger that feeds on people in an effort to regrow the body that it originally came from. A Dead Finger was first published in Baring Gould's short story collection, A Book of Ghosts, in 1904. And it says about him, he lived from 1834 to 1924. He was an English writer and scholar, and he was also an Anglican priest. Although he's probably best remembered for writing the hymns Onward Christian Soldiers. That's one we sing a lot, or used to sing a lot, in our church. So how about that? He wrote booger stories, but he wrote hymns, a very well-known one. And now the day is over, and I'm sure I've heard that before, but it doesn't come to mind. Baring Gould was a prolific writer whose bibliography consists of over 1,200 publications, including the Book of Werewolves, and it says non-fiction. How about that? So, here we go. Oh, shoot. What have I got to get this thing off? How to cleanse your livers, right over top of my story. Don't you love? Dumb ads. I'm trying to read this, so get off of here. Won't go away, y'all. Okay. It's still not. Go away. Part of my story is missing. Aggravation. Well, it's just covered up. Maybe I can go out and go back in and it won't be like that. Here we go. Okay, The Dead Finger. Why the national... Oh, need something to drink right off the bat. Thank heavens I remembered to bring something to wet my whistle, my water bottle. Why the National Gallery should not attract so many visitors as, say, the British Museum, I cannot explain. The latter does not contain much that would suppose appeals to the interest of the ordinary sightseer. What knows such of prehistoric flints and scratched bones, of Assyrian sculpture, of Egyptian hieroglyphics? The Greek and Roman statuary is cold and dead. The paintings in the National Gallery glow with color and are instinct with life, yet somehow a few listless wanderers saunter yawning through the National Gallery, whereas swarms pour through the halls of the British Museum and talk and pass remarks about the objects there and exposed, of the date and meaning of which they have not the faintest conception. I was thinking of this problem and endeavoring to unravel it one morning while sitting in the room for the English masters at the great collection in Trafalgar Square. I've been there. At the same time, another thought forced itself upon me. I had been through the rooms devoted to foreign schools, and had then come into that given over to the Reynolds, Moreland, Gainsborough, Constable, and Hogarth. The morning had been for a while propitious, one of those. Need Sandy. But towards noon, a dense, umber-tinted fog had come on, making it all but impossible to see the pictures, and quite impossible to do them justice. I was tired, and so seated myself on one of the chairs and fell into the consideration, first of all, why the National Gallery is not as popular as it should be, and secondly, how it was that the British school had no beginnings like those of Italy and the Netherlands. We can see the art of the painter from its first initiation in the Italian peninsula, and among the Flemings it starts on its progress like a child, and we can trace every stage of its growth. Not so with English art. It springs to life in full and splendor and splendid maturity. Who were there before Reynolds and Gainsborough and Hogarth? The great names of those portrait and subject painters who have left their canvases upon the walls of our country houses were those of foreigners: Holbein, Kneeler, Van Dyck, and Lely for portraits, and Manoyer for flower and fruit pieces. Landscapes, figure subjects were all importations, none homegrown. How came that about? Was there no limner that was native? Was it that fashion trampled on homegrown pictorial beginnings as it flouted and spurned native music? Here was food for contemplation. Dreaming in the brown fog, looking through it without seeing its beauties, at Hogarth's painting of Lavinia Fenton as Polly Peachum, without wondering how so indifferent a beauty could have captivated the Duke of Bolton and held him for 30 years. I was recalled to myself and my surroundings by the strange conduct of a lady who had seated herself on a chair near me, also discouraged by the fog and awaiting its dispersion. I had not noticed her particularly. At the present moment I do not remember particularly what she was like. So far as I can recollect, she was middle-aged, was quietly yet well-dressed, and it was not her face nor her dress that attracted my attention and disturbed the current of my thoughts. The effect I speak of was produced by her strange movements and behavior. She'd been sitting listless, probably thinking of nothing at all, or nothing in particular, when in turning her eyes round and finding that she could see nothing of the paintings, she began to study me. This did concern me greatly. A cat may look at the king, but to be contemplated by a lady is a compliment sufficient to please any gentleman. It was not gratified vanity that troubled my thoughts, but the consciousness that my appearance produced. First of all, a startled surprise, then undisguised alarm, and finally indescribable horror. Now a man can sit quietly leaning on the head of his umbrella and grow internally warmed and illuminated by the consciousness that he is being surveyed with admiration by a lovely woman, even when he is middle-aged and not fashionably dressed. But no man can maintain his composure when he discovers himself to be an object of aversion and terror. What was it? I passed my hand over my chin and upper lip, thinking it is not possible that I might have forgotten to shave that morning. Not impossible. And in my confusion, not considering that the fog would prevent the lady from discovering neglect in this particular, had it occurred, which it had not. I'm a little careless, perhaps, about shaving when in the country, but when in town, never. The next idea that occurred to me was a smut. Had a London black curdled in that dense pea soup atmosphere descended on my nose and blackened it? I hastily drew my silk handkerchief from my pocket, moistened it, and passed it over my nose and then each cheek. I then turned my eyes into the corners and looked at the lady to see whether by this means I had got rid of what was objectionable in my personal appearance. Then I saw that her eyes, dilated with horror, were riveted not on my face, but on my leg. My leg? What on earth could that harmless member have in it so terrifying? The morning had been dull, there had been rain in the night, and I admit that on leaving my hotel I had turned up the bottoms of my trousers. This is a proceeding not so uncommon, not so outrageous as to account for the stony stare of the woman's eyes. If that were all, I would turn my trousers down. Then I saw her shrink from the chair on which she sat to one further removed from me, but still with her eyes fixed on my leg, about the level of my knee. She had let fall her umbrella and was grasping the seat of her chair with both hands as she backed from me. I need hardly say I was greatly disturbed in mind and feeling, and forgot all about the origin of the English schools and painters, and the question why the British Museum is more popular than the National Gallery, thinking that I might have been spattered by a hansom, Hansom, the little carts or little coaches. Whilst crossing Oxford Street, I passed my hand down my side hastily with a sense of annoyance, and all at once I touched something cold, clammy, that sent a chill to my heart and made me start and take a step forward. At the same moment, the lady, with a cry of horror, sprang to her feet, with raised hands fled from the room, leaving her umbrella where it had fallen. There were other visitors to the picture gallery besides herself who had been passing through the saloon, and they turned at her cry and looked in surprise after her. The policeman stationed in the room came to me and asked what had happened. I was in such agitation that I hardly knew what to answer. I told him I could explain what had occurred little better than himself. I had noticed that the lady had worn an odd expression and had behaved in most extraordinary fashion, and that he had best take charge of her umbrella and wait for her return to claim it. The questioning by the official was vexing, as it prevented me from at once and on the spot investigating the cause of her alarm and mine. Hers at something she must have seen on my leg, and mine at something I had distinctly felt creeping up my leg. The numbing and sickening effect on me of the touch of the object I had not seen was not to be shaken off at once. Indeed, I felt as though my hand were contaminated, and that I could not rest till I had thoroughly washed the hand, and if possible washed away the feeling that had been produced. I looked at the floor, examined my leg, but saw nothing. As I wore my overcoat, it was probable that in rising from the seat the skirt had fallen over my trousers and hidden the thing, whatever it was. I therefore hastily removed my overcoat and shook it. Then I looked at my trousers. There was nothing whatever on my leg, and nothing fell from the overcoat when shaken. Accordingly, I reinvested myself and hastily left the gallery, and then took my way as speedily as I could without actually running to Charing Cross Station and down the narrow way leading to the Metropolitan, where I went into Faulkner's bath and hairdressing establishment and asked for hot water to thoroughly wash my hands and, well, soap it. I bathed my hand in water as hot as I could endure it, employed carbolic soap, and then, having had a good brush down, especially on my left side where my hand had encountered the object that had so affected me, I left. I entertained the intention of going to the Princess's Theatre that evening and of securing a ticket in the morning, but all thought of theatre going was gone from me. I could not free my heart from the sense of nausea and cold that had been produced by the touch. I went into Gaddy's to have lunch and ordered something, I forget what, but when served I found that my appetite was gone. I could eat nothing. The food inspired me with disgust. I thrust it from me untasted, and after drinking a couple of glasses of claret, left the restaurant and returned to my hotel. Feeling sick and faint, I threw my overcoat over the sofa back and cast myself on the bed. I do not know what there was. I do not know that there was any particular reason for doing so, but as I lay, my eyes were on my greatcoat. The density of the fog had passed away, and there was the light again, not of first quality, but sufficient for a Londoner to swear by, so that I could see everything in my room, though through a veil darkly. I did not think my mind was occupied in any way about the only occasions on which, to my knowledge, my mind is actually passive or inert, as when crossing the Channel in the foam from Dover to Calais, when I am always in every weather abjectly seasick and thoughtless. But as I now lay on my bed uncomfortable, squeamish, without knowing why, I was in the same inactive mental condition, but not for long. I saw something that startled me. And I should stop right there, but I can't. First, it appeared to me as if the lappet of my overcoat pocket were in movement, being raised. I did not pay much attention to this, as I supposed that the garment was sliding down onto the seat of the sofa from the back, and that this displacement of gravity caused the movement I observed. But this I soon saw was not the case. That which moved the lappet was something in the pocket that was struggling to get out. I could see now that it was working its way up the inside, and that when it reached the opening it lost balance and fell down again. I could make this out by projections and indentations in the cloth. These moved as the creature, or whatever it was, worked its way up the lining. A mouse, I said, and forgot my seediness. I was interested. The little rascal. However did he contrive to seat himself in my pocket? And I have worn that overcoat all morning. But no, it was not a mouse. I saw something white poke its way out from under the lappet, and in another moment an object was revealed. Though revealed, I could not understand, nor could I distinguish what it was. Now, roused by curiosity, I raised myself on my elbow. In doing this, I made some noise. The bed creaked. Instantly the something dropped on the floor, lay outstretched for a moment to recover itself, and then began, with the motions of a maggot, to run along the floor. There is a caterpillar called the measurer, because when it advances it draws its tail up to where its head is, and then throws forward its full length, what we call inchworms, I guess. Sounds like it. The object I now saw on the floor was advancing precisely like the measuring caterpillar. It had the color of a cheese maggot, and in length was about 3½ inches. It was not, however, like a caterpillar, which is flexible throughout its entire length, but this, as it seemed to me, jointed in two places, one joint being more conspicuous than the other. For some moments I was so completely paralyzed by astonishment that I remained motionless, looking at the thing as it crawled along the carpet, a dull green carpet with darker green, almost black flowers in it. It had, as it seemed to me, a glossy head distinctly marked, but as the light was not brilliant I could not make out very clearly, and moreover the rapid movements prevented close scrutiny. Presently, with a shock still more startling than that produced by its apparition at the opening of the pocket of my greatcoat, I became convinced that what I saw was a finger. a human forefinger, and that the glossy head was no other than the nail. The finger did not seem to have been amputated. There was no sign of blood or laceration where the knuckle should be, but the extremity of the finger, or root rather, faded away to indistinctness, and I was unable to make out the root of the finger. I could see no hand, no body behind this finger, nothing whatever except a finger that had little token of warm life in it, no coloration as though blood circulated in it, and this finger was in active motion, creeping along the carpet towards a wardrobe that stood against the wall by the fireplace. I sprang off the bed and pursued it. Evidently the finger was alarmed, for it redoubled its pace, reached the wardrobe, and went under it. By the time I arrived at the article of furniture, it had disappeared. I lit a Vesta match and held it underneath the wardrobe that was raised above the carpet by about 2 inches. On turned feet, I could see nothing more of the finger. I got my umbrella and thrust it underneath and raked forwards and backwards, right and left, and raked out flue, Flue, and nothing more solid. Now I'm going to stop because we're at chapter 2. And I think it probably only, see if it, no, it has 3 chapters. Let's see. 4 chapters. Let's see if there's any more. This is a long one. 4 chapters. Ew, a finger. Just a finger crawling around. How weird. And this from the man who wrote Onward Christian Soldiers and a few more. Wow. Okay, have a great day. I'll be on at 3 today. Just me. I don't know if I'm going to do Halloween trivia or something else. I don't want to be running folk. I don't know. It seems like my crowd has dwindled, my chat crowd, so I always think, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do better? Wish I could show you a bunch of things that were finished, but I could show you a ton of whips. Okay, have a happy Sunday. Love to you all, and hope to see you live at 3 bells. That's Eastern time. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Bye-bye.